Welcome in, Panthers fans. I'm Kassidy Hill. He is Trevor Sikkema, lead draft analyst from Pro Football Focus. Trevor, it's been a huge week and a half for you. You get married.
It's true. Yep.
Florida wins a national championship last night.
They did.
Gator boys.
Yes.
Stay hot.
Gator boys stay hot.
That's right, go Gator. And now you're here with us today to discuss the Carolina Panthers' upcoming draft. I mean, can these 2 weeks get any better for you?
They can't. You know, I'm legally now not allowed to say that this is better than getting married because my wife will probably watch this video, but I'll give it a second. I'll give it second over Gators winning a national championship because I actually have something to do with this one.
I don't know if I believe you, but we'll take it. Like we said, we are going to be here with Trevor over the next few weeks leading up to the draft on April 24th in Green Bay. We're going to break down all of the Carolina Panthers picks, who Trevor kind of sees going where, what it's going to look like, some positions of need. So stay tuned to Panthers.com and Panthers YouTube for all of those videos with Trevor coming up between now and the draft. As we said, we are going to break down this draft, and we're going to start with some mock drafts. Trevor, you've done a lot of mock. How many mock drafts do you think you've done at this point?
Don't ask me. It'd be embarrassing. I don't even know the number, but it would be embarrassing.
Right. So when you're doing these mock drafts, how much do you take into account a team's current situation? So like you look at what the Panthers did in free agency so far, how much do you take that into account?
Yeah, I mean, you have to because obviously I think that free agency sort of tells you a little bit of a story of what they might be thinking. You know, when you look at the Panthers last year, disappointing on the defensive side of the ball, and there's a lot of reasons for that, right? The injuries weren't there. I don't think they had the star power that they wanted, and they really went after that side of the ball pretty hard in free agency. You could look at that defensive line, especially with Derrick Brown coming back from injury, and say to yourself, we can win with this. We could also get a little bit better if the right player falls to us at number 8, but it doesn't make you feel like you have to force that selection there in the top 10 because that's the thing you never want to do. When you have a top 10 pick, you have a chance at one of the better players in the class, no matter what the draft class is. And for Carolina, you just didn't want to go into that number 8 overall selection and say, man, we really didn't do anything at defensive tackle. We have to draft a defensive tackle here. You never want to say we have to draft a certain player. So I think they went about things in the right way, complementing a lot of what they already had on the roster, increasing the talent level around the defense, and especially in that front seven, because that was an area where they knew they had to get a lot better than what they showed last year. And I think the roster, even on paper before the draft, is better than it was the previous season.
Something General Dan Morgan has talked about a lot as well, that he knew he had to get better in that front seven. Don't forget, DJ Wanham came on sort of towards the second half of last season as well, so we'll get that back. Really, at the beginning of the season, you got a whole season of him on that front seven as well. You said you want to see how the draft falls to them at number 8, so let's see how that might happen.
Yes.
Keep in mind, we took an aggregate of the 30 top mock drafts in the industry, and I'm not a big math person, but I think this is going to be the average of the top 7 picks in the upcoming NFL draft. And 93% of them has a certain player at number 1 overall. You want to take a wild guess as to who that might be?
I would assume at this point in time, it's going to be Cam Moore, the quarterback from Miami.
Shocker.
Yes. I can understand that because, you know, the story of free agency, what we were just talking about, that also tells the tale of the Tennessee Titans.
Right.
They have a quarterback need. They had Will Levis on the roster last year and basically gave Will Levis, now I'm not saying that the team was perfect. The offensive line wasn't where it needed to be. The wide receiver room was not what it needed to be. But still, neither was Levis. And I think they gave him multiple opportunities and really a year-long term to say, hey, can you truly take ownership of this quarterback job? And he didn't. So there's no way the Titans go into next year with just him on the roster to say, here's your starting quarterback again. I'm not saying Will Levis is done in this league, but it makes total sense why Cam Ward would be the number 1 pick because their free agency and not getting another quarterback told us they're targeting him at number 1.
We'll always have the memes. Okay, the Cleveland Browns.
Memes in the mayo.
The memes in the mayo. I don't like to think about the mayo. I can't think about the mayo. The Browns sit at number 2. Let's see what the aggregate mock drafts have there. Abdul Carter, Penn State. Micah Parsons 2.0. Trevor, what do you think about Abdul Carter at number 2?
I mean, you said Micah Parsons 2.0. I kind of hate doing this when I do player comps because Micah Parsons is also my comp for him, but people go, okay, went to the same school, wore the same number, played the same position, and even had the same journey, right? Micah Parsons started as an off-ball linebacker in the middle of the defense, and then he moved more towards the edge. That's exactly what Abdul Carter did. So it's kind of funny. People go, okay, well, he can't just be a carbon copy. He kind of is a carbon copy. And so this is one that's an interesting conversation for Panthers fans. Obviously, they're sitting there at number 8.
Right.
If Abdul Carter, for whatever reason, you know, let's say this pick would have been a Travis Hunter, which I think it could be, maybe a Shedeur Sanders if they really feel like they need a quarterback. Okay. Abdul Carter starts to fall down the board a little bit. That's when Dan Morgan, I think, needs to get on the phones and just figure out, hey, New England, if Carter's on the board at number 4, what's the price for us to come up 4 spots and maybe go get a player like that? You know, that's that star addition that really takes a lot of those free agency additions to the next level. But it makes so much sense why he could be the number 2 overall pick, because he is the number 2 overall player on my big board. And so it would make sense that he would go in the top 2 and here at number 2 in this mock draft.
It also brings up the conversation like we were always having. They did bring Myles Garrett back. So it makes it a little more interesting. New York Giants sitting at number 3. I'm going to take a wild guess as to who the aggregates have here. Oh, actually not who I thought it was going to be.
Me neither. And now, again, Travis, I said that Abdul Carter was my number 2 overall player in the draft. Travis Hunter is my number 1 overall player in the draft. I just think that he is such a unique football player. And for as athletically gifted as Travis Hunter is, I don't think he gets enough credit for his high football IQ. You don't play both positions
where the ball is.
the way that you do at the success level that he does on both sides of the ball, unless you have you're a superhero. You have spidey senses for the game of football, and that's how I feel like Travis Hunter plays the game. And so for him to, it feels like, drop to number 3, it makes sense that the Giants would say, hey, we signed Jameis Winston, we signed Russell Wilson in order to give us the flexibility to not pass on a player like Travis Hunter if he falls to us. So I wasn't sure if this was going to be a quarterback or not, but it ends up going Travis Hunter, so that's very interesting.
I have a theory that the only person that can guard Travis Hunter, the receiver, is Travis Hunter, the corner.
Yes. It's like the Michael Jordan meme, where it's just like it's him guarding him, the younger him versus the older him. That's basically what Travis Hunter is.
You know what? I'd pay to watch that. I'm sure somebody could create it. New England sitting at number 4. Let's see who the aggregates have here. Will Campbell, LSU offensive lineman. It's not really a draft until we have an offensive lineman go in the top 5.
That's true. And Will Campbell, in my opinion, is the best of the bunch. I know there's questions. Can he be an offensive tackle? Is he a guard at the next level? I think he should get a chance to play offensive tackle. He has shown that over the last 3 years, starting in the SEC, starting at LSU. And for the Patriots, there's a lot of really great players that are still on the board. Tetairoa McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona. Mason Graham, the defensive lineman from Michigan. Even another offensive lineman, Armand Membou, who some people think, the tackle from Missouri, maybe he's more of a natural offensive tackle. But the fact of the matter is, this was statistically the worst offensive line in the NFL last year. They gave up the most pressures. I believe they gave up the most sacks. And so any top-tier lineman talent they will take here at number 4, and it's hard to complain about it.
Yeah, got to protect Drake May if he's going to stick around.
Yep.
Jags sitting at number 5, new head coach, new GM, and aggregates have them going Mason Graham, one of the top defensive linemen. I know a lot of guys like Mason Graham. Why is that?
Yeah, it's just because of how disruptive he is. And I understand there's some physical limitations with him. He measured in at sub 300 pounds when he was at the combine, but I've been told his playing weight was a little closer to 310, 315, so you feel a little bit better about it. But really short arms, and it's something that you have to think about when you're playing in the trenches. Size matters a lot in the trenches, and that includes length. It's not just overall height and weight. It's also how much length you have. And I know people talk a lot about that for edge rusher. Interior defensive lineman, it matters a lot too. Now, all that being said, elite PFF grades overall, and especially when it comes to those run defense grades, because he is as strong as an ox in the middle. He is somebody who's very fast hands. He doesn't have a super high pass rush win percentage, but still he is somebody that when he does win, man, he wins so cleanly and he wins so quickly. So Mason Graham is, in my opinion, one of the top 10 players in this class, and I can understand why the Jags, a new regime, says, hey, let's go more towards trenches, because that's a tried and true thing to build teams the right way.
And a team that has a couple of really good edge rushers, but might need to fix that interior a little bit more. Raiders are up next. Mock drafts have them taking Ashton Jeanty.
All right, so it is Ashton Jeanty. So, similarly to the way that we talked about the Patriots, one of the worst offensive lines statistically in the NFL last year, the Raiders were one of, if not the worst rushing attack last year. And so, when you look at it, it was Zamir White, it was Sincere McCormick, it was a lot of guys that they were sort of trying to piece together and make it work. Ashton Jeanty, as we saw this last year from college football, no carry load is too much for this guy. You watch that Penn State playoff game, college football playoff game, and Penn State was basically stacking the box with 8, if not 9 defensive players every single play, and yet he still ended up getting more than 100 yards in that game, and it just shows you how talented he is. Now that they have traded for Geno Smith, now that they have sort of gone all in on getting the right quarterback there, getting a complimentary running back does make sense.
And you've seen Geno Smith in the past need a complimentary running back to really kind of make that Pete Carroll offense click. Jets are up next. Mocks have them taking.
Okay. All right, so it is
another top offensive lineman.
Armand Membou from Missouri. We just talked about him potentially with the New England Patriots. I think that he's certainly going to be on the board for them at number 4. I think he is a perfect complement to exactly what the Jets want, because right now they've got 4 offensive linemen they feel pretty good about. Left tackle, it's Olu Fashanu. Right next to him, it's John Simpson. They have Joe Tippmann at center, and then Elijah Vera Tucker at right guard. Basically, the only spot that's not spoken for yet is the exact spot at right tackle that Armand Membou played over the last 2 years at Missouri. So really great grades from him as well. Really good pass protection grades, somebody who's fantastic in outside zone rushes. So if they want to implement that more in New York, I think he does make a lot of sense there. So I could totally see this being the pick here for the New York Jets.
Okay, so everything so far that we've gone through, 1 through 7, has been the 30 mock drafts that we've kind of pulled together. You've done, like we said, a lot of mock drafts. I think your most recent mock draft had Shamar Stewart right here.
Yes.
We have heard Dan Morgan talk about some of the positions of need at number 8, whether it be edge, whether it be a safety. I don't know if you want to use the top 10 on safety, but could be safety. Defensive line, you look ahead to some contracts that are going to be up in the next couple of years. Offensive line could even be right here.
Sure.
Who do you have the Panthers taking at number 8?
I think it's a really good scenario for them. I'm going to be honest with you. Basically, the only player who I'd really be considering here for them outside of, Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, that's not on the board is Mason Graham. That's really it. Okay. He would have been the only player within those top 7 who is gone that I would have really considered here. The ones that I'm thinking about a lot are, I know we talked about how I think they want to lean toward this defensive side of things, but with Tyler Warren, the tight end from Penn State, still on the board, he's a top 10 player in my opinion. And with Tetairoa McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona, another not just top 10, but he is a top 5 player in the class, in my opinion. Both of those guys available here at number 8. They have a plethora of the pass rushers that they could go to. You mentioned Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M being one of them. I think Donovan Ezaraku from Boston College is also somebody who I think people go like, oh, okay, more of a mid-first rounder.
Yeah.
He's just an incredible player.
Yeah.
Like, don't let 4 or 5 spots in the order.
We like Boston College players around here too.
They've been pretty good when they've been wearing Panthers colors. There's no doubt about it. And so with Donovan Ezaraku, like, I know some people might say like, no, it's a little too early for him. But I think it's only too early for him because maybe what we've been conditioned to see in mock drafts. When you look at his production, 21 tackles for loss, 16.5 sacks this past year, double digit in those categories as a sophomore as well. And despite him being a little bit lighter in size, run defense grades above 80 in each of the last 3 seasons. You listen to him at the combine, he is just so smart in how he talks about things. So I wanted to sort of like make sure that Panthers fans know that if they were to have this option here for them, Donovan Ezaraku from Boston College should absolutely be on the board here. James Pierce Jr., Mike Green, a lot of those guys. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to go with Tetairoa McMillan here.
Okay.
I would go with the wide receiver
All
from Arizona. All of that to say, I would go with the offensive player because when I look at this wide receiver and just overall receiving group, because you could throw the tight ends in there as well, and Jatavian Sanders, who I still like a good amount, and Tommy Tremble, who they brought back. Like, if you look at the receivers, it's solid. I think if you throw Tetairoa McMillan in there, what an incredible compliment I think he already is to the wide receivers that they already have, and it allows Dave Canales to really orchestrate the offense in a lot of ways that they want. McMillan is somebody who has a similar skill set profile to that of Mike Evans down in Tampa Bay. Dave Canales knows pretty well how to use a player like that. And so, to me, you want to make sure that even though you want the defensive side of the ball to be better, what you did in free agency allows you the flexibility to make this pick. And it's still about giving Bryce Young exactly what he needs to be the caliber quarterback that he could be. So my pick right here would be Arizona wide receiver Tetairoa McMillan.
We see a lot of Bryce Young being compared to kind of a point guard as well. Does McMillan fit into that scheme, or it's just kind of spreading it around?
No, I think so, absolutely. Now, this past year, McMillan was a receiver who they were really force feeding a lot because they did not have anything else
Right.
on that Arizona offense. But the year prior was a little bit more, like you were saying, sort of spread out. They were spreading the wealth and everything. McMillan doesn't have to just be this high volume wide receiver. I think that even if it's a little bit less in targets, he can give you exactly what you want to. That height, that contested catch ability is fantastic. And then just what he is in the red zone. And the thing that I love about him is he gives you more yards after the catch, and he has that playmaker mentality, more so than you would expect for a player of his size. A lot of times when you look at these guys who are just tall, long, these contested catch type of winners, they don't often give you that after catch ability. And McMillan, I think, absolutely does. And so there's people out there who question the speed and the separation ability. Look, he's not going to be separating like, Lad McConkey or like Adam Thielen does. Like, it's not exactly going to be that. But I think he separates well enough, and the pluses that he gives you in the other areas absolutely spell out somebody who could be a wide receiver one. Good comp for him that a lot of people like to point to, if it's not a Mike Evans, a Drake London, and both of these players are wide receiver ones on their teams.
2 seasons of 1,300 plus yards, so the production's there, the promise is there. Could be interesting. Trevor, thank you for taking us through this mock draft so far. We're not going to let him go far. We've still got a lot of draft to talk about. Stay tuned for when Trevor returns to talk about edge defenders in the upcoming 2025 NFL Draft.